Alright guys, welcome back here. So I thought today would be a good day to shoot a video here. How do you deal with washing your car during pollen season? As you could probably see, the roof is completely yellow. See, the pollen builds up in the door track for the window. Got these little helicopter things that come down from the trees. Pollen builds up in the window seal. How do you deal with the pollen? Well, you can do a rinseless wash, but just keep in mind, pollen is very similar to salt in the fact that it's abrasive. It's not if you were to microscopically look at what pollen looks like, it has very sharp edges to it. Okay, so while it just looks like dust, it actually has sharpness to it. So if you're not careful, you can very easily scratch the car while washing it, even if you're extremely careful. So there's a couple of things I'm going to show you here today. You can rinse the car down completely, okay? Or you can use a foam cannon. Now you're going to sit here and say, okay, well, foam cannons don't work, they don't wash the car. And that's correct, okay? But what the soap will actually do, it will help lift the loose pollen. It will help lift it up, and it will allow it to drop, either run off or just suspend, so that way when you come with a pressure washer and rinse it off. So we're going to foam it first, then we're going to completely rinse it, and then we're going to wash it. Okay, please remember that using a foam cannon, when you foam up a car, that's not going to wash your vehicle. I don't care what anybody says, what claims are made, it's not going to wash your vehicle. The only way that a foam cannon will work and will completely allow you to wash your car without having to touch it is if your car is just either dusty or maybe you washed it yesterday. As long as no rain or dew has come in contact with your car, you can get away with a touch-free wash using a foam cannon. But if it's rained on your car, if you've driven through the rain, if your car has had any type of dew on it, that water that hit the paint and then dried, you're not going to be able to use a foam cannon to wash that away. Okay, the only way that you're going to wash the car is by touching it. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. If you want to wash your car, you want to have it clean, you got to touch it. So that's why we take precautions as detailers to try to minimize any type of scratching or any type of swirling possible. But anytime you touch your paint, no matter what method you use, no matter how well you rinse, no matter how many mitts you use, how many rags you use, how many towels, etc., every time you touch your paint, you risk scratching it. It's just the nature of how it goes. But if you're ultra careful and take the necessary precautions, you will put very few, if any, swirls or scratches into your paint. It's all about how you go about it. Okay, so I'm gonna just show you guys here one more time. You can see how yellow the roof is. You can see all that pollen buildup. Okay, and you can see we got the wheels and the tires. You can see the bottom of the car. It's not too bad. It's just the top sections. All right, so I'm going to put the camera down. I'm going to get everything set up. We're going to rinse everything down. Or excuse me, we're going to foam the car, let it sit, rinse it, and then we're going to proceed into our wash. Okay, so I got the foam cannon filled up. I did rinse those leaves and stuff that were in the wiper cowl, and also that was stuck in between the window seals. I just blew them out with the pressure washer. So now what we're going to do next is we're going to foam up the vehicle using foam cannon. This one specifically is from MTM. You can use the ones on Amazon that are $15-$20. But if you're looking for something that's going to last a long time, the metal, the fittings and everything on the MTM are obviously going to be a lot better, but you do pay for that in the price, as these can be anywhere from either side $80, maybe a little more, but they're definitely going to be much more expensive. But I've had this foam cannon for 2 or 3 years now, and I've dropped it, all kinds of things, and it still works. Obviously nothing's rusting because of the fittings and everything that they use. So the next thing is, what do you put in the foam cannon? Well, you can use any ordinary car soap. It doesn't have to be anything specific. Fill the thing up with water, put 2 to 4 ounces of soap in there. But I like to use soaps. There's a few of them on the market that have what's called dual stage cleaning, I believe is the term. Basically what it means is it has the capability to a degree of encapsulating and lifting dirt. Your ordinary car soap is not going to do that, because that's not what it's designed for. Griot's foaming surface wash is one of them, where it actually has some level of self-cleaning to it. But again, it's not going to completely wash your vehicle without you having to touch it if your vehicle has any level of dirt on it aside from a little dust. So I find that using the soaps like that are very helpful, because it just takes the cleaning level just up a little level, so that way when you go to do your wash, you don't have to do as much cleaning or as much risk for scratching. So I'm gonna get the pressure washer on. We're gonna foam up the entire car, let it sit for a couple minutes, and then we'll rinse it off, and then we'll proceed with our normal wash. So the sequence is, you clean your wheels, clean your tires first, wheel wells, do that just like normal, and then for cars that are extremely dirty, or you're in pollen season, this is a really good method. It is going to take a little extra time, but the results are well worth it, and you don't have to worry about putting any scratches and stuff into the paint work, because again, as we talked about, pollen is actually very abrasive. It's kind of like salt. You can scratch the paint extremely easily. So we're going to start with the pressure washer, and then we're going to get to foaming. A little air in the line. All right, so we let that sit again for a couple minutes, let it do its thing. It's probably gonna not show up much in the camera, but you can see a little bit on the edge. It's hard to see in the camera. I can see it here in person, but as I look through the screen, it's not picking it up. But you can actually see it's starting to bring the dirt, or all the pollen, I should say, down to the bottom. And also another thing with these soaps that I was talking about here that have the dual stage cleaning, you can see that the soap is not just running right off the paint. It's actually staying It's not just, you know, as soon as you spray it on, it comes right off. You actually want to have what's going on here because you want to give the soap a time to break down everything and lift as much as it possibly can. So you can see it's kind of just sitting. The only area it's coming off the most is the very tips of the edges of the panels is where it's coming off the most. But you can see the hood, the entire hood is still covered, and obviously weather conditions are going to help this process more because it's cloudy, it's not sunny, so this soap has a chance to do its thing. If it were a lot hotter or direct sun, you might get a minute or two out of the soap, and then you're going to have to rinse it. And most soaps today that are pH neutral, you don't have to worry about them drying. If they dry on the surface, you can just rinse it off, and it's not going to leave any residue. If you're using some type of soap that's up there in the pH scale, you know, like obviously dishwashing detergent would be up there. That, no, you don't want to leave dry because it's going to leave residue behind. You can see it's doing its thing. It's breaking everything down. Like I said, here on the edge of the dirt, or the edge of the soap, you can see there is, like I said, it's not really showing up on the camera. It might show up in the video, but you can see there's a definitive line there. It's pulling off. It's pulling off everything. And you can see here, there's still a little bit of pollen left in the areas where the soap's run off, but as soon as we take the power washer to it, it's going to rinse, you know, it's going to rinse off. It's not going to stay because the soap has softened that up. So even if the soap doesn't actually take the dirt off completely, it does soften it up a little bit. So that's much easier to rinse off. And then when you actually take your mitt to it or whatever you use to wash, it's gonna come off much easier. All right, so I'm gonna rinse this off. You know, I'm not gonna show you guys rinsing because it's very self-explanatory. You're just rinsing all the soap off, and then you're gonna continue just as if you were doing a regular wash. Wash your car like normal after you do this. So this really helps how to clean a vehicle, especially during pollen season. That can help you not have to worry about scratching, swirling up your car, and it also helps not such a messy process, because it's also gonna do the same in the cracks and the crevices. It's gonna lift anything out that's tucked under there, because pollen gets everywhere, especially when it rains. That's where it starts to pool up. In places like this where the window track is, it likes to pull up in there. So the soap's going to help. It's going to help dissolve that. So I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for another video at some point.